Story 1: No personal items at your desk. Sure, I'll make it as impersonal as possible. I work at a mid-sized company where most of us have small desks in an open-plan office. Our workspace was never fancy, but it was our own. Many of us had personalized our desks over time with small things that made us feel comfortable, like family photos, little potted plants, motivational quotes, even those cheesy stress balls from random company events. Enter our new manager, Sheila. Fresh from a more formal, corporate environment, she came in with big ideas about professionalism and efficiency. Her first big change? An immediate no personal items policy. Sheila sent out an email announcing that desks must remain professional and distraction-free, and warned that any personal items found after a certain date would be removed by her. People were frustrated, but we complied. We packed up our things, took home our photos, plants, and every little touch that made our desks feel like ours. But Sheila wasn't satisfied. She started walking around the office, critiquing anything she deemed unprofessional, including practical items like sticky notes or even labeled drawers. She wanted a uniform look, free from clutter. At this point, we were fed up. We decided to take impersonal to a whole new level. We spent the next few days systematically removing anything that added personality or function to the space. First, we took down the labels on drawers and cabinets that marked where supplies were kept. After all, they could be considered personalized. Then, we stripped the whiteboards bare, removing all schedules, task lists, and helpful reminders. My coworker Sam, the office organizer, removed all the color-coded tabs and replaced everything with blank, unlabeled folders. Our workstations became soulless. But we didn't stop there. We noticed that even the company-provided items, like the ergonomic mouse pads and wrist rests, weren't uniform. So we tucked them away in drawers. Some of us even swapped out our ergonomic chairs with the plain guest chairs, as the ergonomic ones seemed a bit too individualized. Soon, our workspace looked like a cross between a sterile hospital room and a call center with zero personality. It was, in Sheila's words, totally professional. Sheila was pleased at first, but then the consequences of our impersonal compliance started to show. Without labels or visible reminders, no one knew where anything was stored, leading to endless back and forth and wasted time hunting for supplies. Simple tasks took twice as long, with people digging through unlabeled files or searching for the right folder in the sea of plain, identical folders. Clients visiting the office remarked that the space felt cold and uninviting, noting that they missed the usual welcoming touch. Morale in the office dropped, and everyone was noticeably disengaged. After a particularly rough day where Sheila herself got frustrated searching for a stapler, she called an emergency meeting. She admitted that maybe we'd gone a bit too far, and that we could reintroduce a few labeled drawers and some plants. One by one, employees brought back their family photos, potted plants, and other small touches that made the office feel alive again. By the end of the day, our workspace was back to normal, with a clear message sent: sometimes a little personality and comfort go a long way. Story 2: My buddy did not need a spotter for his bench press attempt. When I was working at the gym many years ago, a friend of mine came in to work out. It was a slow time of the day, so very few people were working out, and the gym was a small one. The area was split in two parts, divided by a fairly large U-shaped bar. One quarter was filled with a few benches, dumbbells and barbells, and the other area was filled with machines. My buddy was a really nice guy, but tended to overestimate his abilities. Recently he surpassed the magic milestone of a 100 kilograms bench press, and his plan for this day was to repeat this. I am very aware of his abilities and asked him if he wanted me to spot him during his bench press. It's always recommended to use a spotter when bench pressing with weights nearing your maximum. He said, "No, I feel really strong today, so I don't need a spotter." I asked, "Are you sure?" "Nope, I really can do this, so I don't need your help for this." I offered to spot one more time, but he was very sure he could do it without me spotting him, so I went to the other side of the bar area and just waited. It did not take long, and I heard some groaning and puffing, and eventually he shouted my name, asking to help him. So, like the good friend that I am, I hurried to the other side of the bar where I found him with the barbell on his chest, very helpless. I laughed for about 10 seconds and then I removed the barbell from his chest. We had a good laugh together after this and he never learned. Story 3, you asked me for all my change, so I complied. In the end I remained the fool. In 2003 I returned home from my first year of college. I had decided to switch schools and degrees, and attend a local music technical college instead. I moved back into my parents' home and drove into the city each day for classes. In order to save on parking, I purchased a permit to park in a church's lot. This lot was about 10 blocks from the school, so I had a decent walk each day. About a week into classes, I was on my walk, smoking a cigarette, when out of nowhere a homeless man appears right next to me. He looks as you might imagine. Late 50s, messy salt and pepper hair, flannel jacket, snow pants, work boots with no laces. He leaned in and asked, "Hey buddy, can I get a smoke?" Now, I was 19 at the time, and a bit cocky. I was gonna give him one but he had to work for it. I told him he could have one. But he would have to walk with me to class and keep me company while he smoked it. He agreed and off we went. We exchanged names, and asked each other basic questions about our lives. The normal pleasantries. About a block from school we tossed our butts and he leans in again and says, "Hey buddy, I gotta ask, got any spare change?" I replied, "Sorry, but I don't keep change on me." At the time I tossed all my spare change in some glass milk jugs I had in my room, so we parted ways that day. I kid you not, 2 weeks later this man had memorized my class schedule. Every single day, this man would meet me at the corner, ask for a smoke and walk me to class. Every day asking me for change. And me having none. This continued for almost 15 months. The school I went to didn't have summer breaks, so now it's just a few weeks away from graduation. It's the end of winter. I'm getting ready in the morning for class. I put on my leather trench coat, grab my book bag and head for the door. I look down at the floor and see 2 glass milk jugs overflowing with change. I look down at the huge pockets in my coat, then back at the change jars. I'm gonna do it. I take each milk jar and turn them upside down into each pocket. You have no idea how much 2 gallons of change actually weighs. Then I head off for school. Things start off like normal. He meets me at the corner. I give him a smoke. We set off. I'm trying my best to step lightly, as to not make my pockets jingle, and I can't look him in the face because I don't want to totally lose it. We finally get to the end of our walk. We tossed our cigarettes. He turned to me and said, "Hey buddy, I gotta ask, you got any change?" So I turn to him and say, "Okay. I'm gonna make you a deal. I will give you all the change I have in my pockets if you promise to never ask me for change again. Deal?" He nods his head in agreement and holds out his one hand, palm up. "No, you don't understand," I said, "I have a lot of change." So he holds out both hands, cupping them together. "No," I said, "you don't understand. I have a lot of change." He stands there with a questioning look on his face, so I grab the bottom of his sweatshirt, and pull it up, and make him hold it like a hammock. I then proceed to start shoveling handfuls of change into its sweatshirt. Handful after handful, and his eyes are getting wider in sheer disbelief. Just when he thinks I'm about finished, I switch to the other pocket. More and more change. Its sound is echoing between the buildings, and both of us are laughing uncontrollably. I finally finished. He thanked me and waddled off like a pregnant woman, and I went to class. The next day was bright and sunny. I park my car at the church. I'm walking, big smile on my face. He meets me at the corner, also with a big smile on his face. He leans in with a huge grin and says, "Hey buddy. Can I get a smoke?" Long pause. "Yeah buddy, you can have a smoke." TLDR, homeless man bums cigarettes off me for over a year. In an attempt to get him to buy his own, I played myself. Edit. It turns out they were 1/2 gallon eggnog jars, not 1 gallon milk jars. Story 4, you want the files? Sure, here you go. December 2020, middle of the pandemic. I was contracting as a stress engineer, basically check that things are strong enough etc. 1 week before Christmas I get a call from the agency I was contracting with saying that my contract was not going to be renewed. I live in the UK and had been working from home for about 6 months following the lockdown. I was part of a small team. One member of the team was a weasel in love with his own brain. He used a lot of big words and waffled on in front of the client, basically an expert turd polisher of the highest caliber. I was more succinct and just stuck to the facts when reporting on the progress of my analysis, so the whole project was a bit of a shit show. Client kept changing their mind about how they wanted this part analyzed. I was just a contractor and as such had to do what they said. I never did find out why it was me they decided to can me, but I can guess. I think the multiple changes and delays were put on me, and Weasel Boy obviously convinced them he was very much more valuable than me. For a bit of background, this guy was a serious dick. I was once tasked with checking some of his analysis. I found some errors in his calculations. I corrected them and sent them back. He didn't like that, not one bit, so he takes the knife to her laughing as he does it and turns to me and says, "Why so serious? Let's put a smile on that face of yours." Sorry, lost my train of thought there. Anyway, I correct his calculations and give him a much simpler way of doing it. Rather than use my method, which was correct, he spends 2 days with his weaselly little face buried in a maths textbook looking up a more advanced matrix method, which did the same thing as what I had given him, but he was too busy jerking himself off over matrices and how great they are. Bear in mind the following: as contractors we were there to get the job done. He had a method, the one I gave him, and he refused to use it. He wasted 2 days of the client's money looking up a method that did the same thing. A few days later we were making a coffee and he says that he had sent his calculation off to the client, who was really impressed with my matrix method. I was gobsmacked. You are a little prick and I hate you. You wasted 2 days, you little arsehole. It isn't your method. You read what others had done and you took the next step. You didn't earn the knowledge for yourself, so you don't take any responsibility for it. You stood on the shoulders of geniuses to accomplish something as fast as you could, and before you even knew what you had, you'd patented it. And packaged it and slapped it on a plastic lunchbox, and now you selling it. Well, sorry. So needless to say, he was a weasel and a cerebral narcissist, and he just needed drop kicking, but he gets kept on. Enter dickhead number 2. This guy is technically our leader, and well, he was a prick as well, but I won't get into that too much. About 4 months after being let go, I have been scratching around for work for months. I am married and we have 3 kids. Savings used up. My eldest actually gave us money from his trust fund to tide us over. I had taken a job in a warehouse working Satsunman, doing 12-hour shifts. It was tough work and the supervisor was a bastard who needed kneecapping, so I took this so that I could continue to look for work during the week. One day I am sitting there and my phone rings. Dickhead 2, hi, how is it going? Fuck you, you prick, you haven't spoken to me in months. Me, oh hi. How's it going, Dickhead 2, do you remember that analysis you did? Well, do you still have the analysis files? The client has lost them, you cheeky cunt. For months and not a word, never once tried to help me find work or even drop me a text, and now you want my help. Oh my friend, there is a special place in hell for you, you soulless money-grabbing cockwomble. Me, yes, I think I do, but they are not the latest iteration. You will have to check for some of the later updates. Dickhead number 2, oh great, if you can send them that would be great. Send them? Why don't I send you to the backrooms where you can get a stick job from an entity, you fucking wanker? Me, sure, will do. I was gobsmacked. How can people be such pricks? The client lost the files? So? Sounds like a personal problem. You might wonder why I gave him the files. Well, because I knew something he didn't know. The reason why I was able to summarize the results of the analysis so quickly was because I had written some code to go through all the output files of the analysis and strip out only the results that we were interested in. I gave him 40 files. Have fun manually looking through them and stripping out what you need. It would take ages. Oh, and like I said, they were old files, out of date. Take them and shove them up your arse, and while you are at it tell that weasel that he is a cuckolded little henpecked sphincter, and I am glad that his wife spends all his money and his mother-in-law lives in his house and complains at him. Story 5, you want your 2 pieces of toast the same size? As you wish. I, F33, live in a regional coastal town in Australia, and used to work in a great little family-run cafe. Think great coffee, yum food, beautiful garden courtyard, and mostly wonderful customers. One summer, during school halls, on a heaving Sunday morning, I was zooming around doing a quick dish run and started clearing some empty mugs from an older lady, 60s, with her 2 young grandchildren. She had just received her breakfast and was adding condiments to her 2 pieces of toast. She stopped me and said, "I'm just looking at the menu and I can see that I paid the same price, $3, for each of these 2 pieces of toast, but they aren't exactly the same size." I look at her toast and they are both large. But one is approximate 10% smaller than the other, so I assume she's just making convo and I smile, say yeah, continue grabbing items. She stares at me and says again they aren't the same size, but I paid the same for each of them. That's not really fair. I realize she's serious and start telling her that this is because we use a local, handmade sourdough from a beautiful wood-fired bakery baked literally just 7 kilometers away. The loaves are rustic, not factory perfect. She's not having a bar of what I'm saying, insisting she's paid the same price and she wants 2 pieces of toast the same size. This is when my incredulity ends and my petty steps in. Cue malicious compliance. Fine, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. I take her toast into my boss, F33, tell her the story, and she's like, "Say no more, friend, I've got it," proceeds to cuts 2 equal-sized slices of bread from the smaller end of a loaf, and toasts them perfectly. I then have the pleasure of taking 2 pieces of obviously smaller toast to the lady, and say, "Here's your 2 pieces of toast, the same size." The look of shock, turn anger, turn embarrassment on her face was absolutely delicious. You want to behave like a toddler, then you can eat like one too. Story 6, you want me to answer what you expect to hear? Okay, back in my days working for a Big 5 consulting company, we were mandated to attend several courses. The one that relates to the story was called Corporate Image and was about looking the part, being well dressed and such. Being that the company had a strictly suit policy, the idea of the course was kind of an indoctrination to the Barney Stinson school of dressing. I was having a particularly rough day that day, so we could say that my attitude towards the course wasn't the best, and I sat in the back. The guy in charge, let's call him Corpo, starts the course by showing a video of a guy wearing flip-flops, bathing suit, t-shirt with surfer logos, badly trimmed beard and ponytail, explaining some technical stuff in the most boring way, stuttering and showcasing a poor knowledge of the subject. After the video finishes, Corpo asks if we think that the guy is a good communicator and that the message got through. Everybody says no. Corpo asks why. People start saying that he doesn't look the part, then Corpo asks me. I reply, because he's boring as a white wall and doesn't know the subject well enough. Corpo doubles down, don't you think that the way he's dressed has something to do with it? I say, if he's good, knows his stuff and communicates well, we could be fully naked for all I care. Everybody laughs, except Corpo. Corpo starts a full 15-minute rant about how looking the part, how wearing a suit is the most important thing because it makes someone believable and trustworthy and blah blah blah. I interrupt him once to say, lawyers are among the most untrustworthy people on earth and they all wear suits. He continues his rant by saying that nobody would trust a lawyer without a suit and blah blah blah. Okay, so this is how we roll. Suits are the most important thing and this is how you expect us to reply. Fine, I will comply. Fast forward to later in the course. He shows footage of Steve Jobs and Steve Ballmer talking, engaging with the audience and being, generally, well regarded as good spokespersons, while wearing their typical outfits, which, guess what, are not suits. When the QA about the Steve's videos start, I say, they don't look trustworthy. 2 of the top 20 rich people in the world and they wear something that I can buy for like $40 at any shopping mall. Where are the suits? Corpo by then is kind of furious with me, but I've managed to engage the rest of my colleagues into my side of the equation, so we start arguing who's more trustworthy, and if the brand of suit goes directly proportional to the trustworthiness of the guy. Examples go from Pat Riley with his Armani suits to Don Corleone with his tailor-made ones. Corpo has lost the class, and everything ends prematurely when someone asks, "Wait, are military suits trustworthy or not?" Corpo gasps, thinking where the conversation could be heading, and dismisses us ahead of schedule with a, "Okay, you've all passed this course, I think we'll end it here." TLDR. Corporate baboon tries to equal wearing a suit with being a good and trustworthy spokesperson. It backfires spectacularly.